Welcome to Print Processes and Emerging Technologies. Today, your learning objectives are some I can statements. I would like you to describe the common printing processes. I want you to be able to list common products produced by each of the printing processes, be able to identify samples of each of the printing processes, and list the advantages and disadvantages of each printing process. Along with that, I would like you to be able to define counterfeit, copyright, and intellectual property infringement, and talk about the issues and challenges associated with counterfeiting, copyright, and intellectual property infringement in the printing industry. And last but not least, I want you to discuss emerging technologies related to 3D printing, or to printing, not 3D printing, sorry. So first things first, we're going to go about the 6 printing processes. One of the first printing processes is flexography. It is printing from a raised, flexible plastic plate where ink is applied onto the raised surface and then transferred to a substrate by direct pressure. Typical products produced are flexible products such as plastic bags, labels, and other packaging material. Now it's got several advantages. It is very high speed and has fast drying inks. But some of the disadvantages are that it's difficult to reproduce fine detail. The color may not be consistent, and the setup costs are high and would rarely be used on print runs below 500,000. The next printing process is gravure or gravure. It is rotogravure, or gravure is short for a type of intaglio printing process, which involves engraving the image onto an image carrier. In gravure printing, the image is engraved onto the cylinder. Like offset printing and flexography, it uses a rotary printing press. So when the ink fills into the engraved surface and then prints onto the surface of the substrate. Products that are typically produced using gravure is magazines, catalogs, newspaper supplements, package printing. It can print on metal surfaces, vinyl surfaces. Some very popular things that are printed on money. They have engraved plates for them to print the money, stamps, and also fine art. Advantages to gravure printing: you have consistent color reproduction at high speeds. It's got one of the widest printing presses, and the ink dries upon evaporation. It also has a variety of inline finishing that you can do, and it's got good results on lower quality paper. The disadvantages is at a very high cost to engrave the printing plates and cylinders. And it's only efficient for very long print runs. So think of things with lots of quantities, such as stamps and money. The image printed has dots that are visible to the naked eye. And it's very expensive to set up the cost and is only used for large print runs. That's why, stamps and money, it's very feasible for that one. Next is letterpress. This is the oldest printing process. Letterpress is printing from a raised metal plate. Ink is applied to the raised surface, then transferred to paper by direct pressure, and it is rarely used today. Printing products that were in the old days, that's how they used to set it up. They take each letter, which is made out of a metal, and they'd put it backwards, and they'd print out the newspaper that way, or the magazine or the books. The letterpress is used to print like stationery and business cards, newspaper, and books, but it's very rarely used today. The advantages is high speed and fast drying inks, but the disadvantage, it is extremely slow setup, and there's no room for error, and it's very expensive to run. A lot of people do this nowadays as doing for invitations for a wedding to make it look embossed or handmade. Offset lithography. This is printing from a flat surface, and it is based on the principle that oil and water do not readily mix. It is the most widely used is offset lithography, where the inked image is transferred or offset from the printing plate to a rubber cylinder called a blanket, and then from the blanket it goes onto the substrate. Products that are produced, it pretty much can produce most anything. It is used for most forms of commercial printing and publishing of books, newspapers, forms, stationery, etc. The advantages, it's got good reproduction quality, especially photographs. It's fairly inexpensive. There's a wide range of papers. It's high speed and widely available. Some disadvantages are color variations due to the water ink mixture. Paper can stretch from the dampening. Setup costs can make it uneconomical in short runs, and it can only be used on flat material, and it requires a good quality surface. Next is screen printing. This uses a stencil process in which an image carrier is attached to a screen and ink is forced through the open mesh area. Products it can produce are clothing, packaging, printing on non-absorbent surfaces such as glass. You can make signs with it. There's a lot of, and packaging. So advantages, stencils are easy to produce using a photo emulsion technology. It's versatile and can print on pretty much any surface. It's really economical for short print runs. And there's also a fully automatic method for screen printing that produces for large volumes. But the disadvantages is it's generally very difficult to achieve fine detail, and it requires a long drying time. Next is digital, or called non-impact, or pressureless. It does not require contact between an image carrier and a substrate. We usually use these in offices to print copies. They have the advantages: it's quick turnaround, it's low cost, and there's no plate costs. The quality is great and no registration issues, and the color is vibrant. The only problem is the large volumes are very expensive and there are color limitations. Next, we're going to talk about counterfeiting and copyright. So counterfeiting, this is a means of imitating something authentic with the intent to steal, destroy, or replace the original for use with illegal transactions, or otherwise to deceive an individual into believing the fake is of equal or greater value than the real thing. The two most common things that are counterfeited, people like to try to counterfeit money, and then also counterfeiting artwork, selling a counterfeit piece as an original. Copyright is a type of intellectual property that gives the owner an exclusive right to make copies of creative work. Usually it's for a limited time. The creative work may be in a literary, artistic, educational, or music form. Copyright is intended to protect the original expression of an idea in the form of a creative work, but not the idea itself. But a copyright is subject to limitation based on the public interest considerations, such as the fair use doctrine in the United States. So let's say you make something, you design something, you're artistic. If you do not copyright it and you put it on the internet, someone can use it. So all your hard work goes out the door. And you might see it on a billboard or something. So it's very important that if you have any artistic, musical creations, that you copyright it. Intellectual property infringement. This is the infringement or violation of intellectual property right. There are several types of intellectual property rights, such as copyrights, patents, trademarks, industrial design, and trade secrets. So if you're working for a company such as Apple and they have a new product coming out, well, you have to sign a disclosure that you're not going to release any information to the public, because that could affect sales and it could affect other issues with the company. So issues and challenges associated with counterfeit, copyright, intellectual property infringement in the printing industry. Customers might have great ideas, but the printing industry needs to make sure that it's legal to print. The printer must make sure they are following the copyright law and fair use doctrine. So as clients, you need to supply text and images that are without fault. You need to check the text and images of any artwork the designer sends you. Designers, you are responsible for submitting correctly prepared artwork to the printer. You're responsible for understanding the printing process well enough to prevent any obvious issues. And printers, you are responsible for printing, trimming, and packaging the job in an acceptable manner. You are responsible for flagging any potential issues that are beyond the obvious. Next, we're going to talk about emerging technologies. One of the first one, which is pretty common nowadays, is 3D printing. It is a manufacturing method where 3D objects are quickly made on a reasonably sized machine connected to a computer containing blueprints for the object. The basic principles are like that of 2D printing, It's got material cartridges, flexible of output, and it translates a code into a visible pattern or a three-dimensional object. Next is nanography. This differs from other types of printing technologies because it uses innovative system of printing process that employs the Lambda NanoLink or Nano ink, a proprietary water-based ink with nanopigment particles that measure tens of nanometers in size. You also have production inkjet. These are printing typically refers to high-speed single-pass inkjet systems that supplement web and sheet-fed offset printing presses. Production inkjet presses enable print shops to fulfill the growing demand for long runs of jobs that involve variable data or fast turnaround on short-run jobs. Quick Response Code, or QR code, is a trademark for a type of metric barcode or two-dimensional barcode. It originally was first designed in 1994 for the automotive industry in Japan. A barcode is a machine-readable optical label that contains information about the item which is attached. You see them nowadays on pretty much anything. You scan it with your phone and it takes you to a website or other information, maybe a video. Cross-media communication is communication that integrates interactive experiences that occur across multiple media with multiple authors and have multiple styles. So you've got print that goes to maybe a laptop, which goes to a tablet, which goes to a mobile device, all looking the same and have interactive pieces. Augmented reality, or AR, is an interactive experience of a real-world environment where the objects reside in the real world are enhanced by computer-generated perception information, sometimes across multiple sensory modalities, including visual, auditory, haptic, somosensory, and olfactory. So if you hold your phone up to something that has AR and you have the AR app or augmented reality app, it has the image come to life. To the right, IKEA uses it to let people see the product in their home before they buy it. And then variable data driven print, or VDP, is a form of printing which includes on-demand printing in which elements such as text and graphics and images may be changed from one printed piece to the next without stopping or slowing down the printing process. It uses information from a database or external file. And then you have cloud-based composition. This is on-demand availability of computer system resources, especially data storage, cloud storage, and computer power, with the direct active management by the user. And that is the printing processes and emerging technologies.